To order the June 24th, 2026 regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Palo Verde Health District. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States.
We do believe you're on it now.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I'm in a. I can't.
President Carmelo Garnica,
Here.
Katrina Sardin.
Here, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Dr.
Repop.
Sandra Hudson,
Present.
How do I make this bigger?
and Jackie Randall Crowe. Here.
Okay, never mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
Third of the board update. Ms. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam President. Currently, there are no additions, no deletions, no corrections. I am not in receipt of any comment request cards. Legal counsel has requested that the board training presentation be moved to follow the consideration of business items. Thank you.
Okay, do any of the colleagues have an item that they'd like to pull from the consent agenda for discussion? As a reminder, any consent items not pulled will be voted on in a block motion. All business agenda items will be voted on individually. Something else. Okay. Members of the public are encouraged to address the board of directors. Anyone wishes to speak during public comment must submit a comment request card to the board clerk prior to the clerk of the board update. This is an opportunity for citizens to speak on items not listed on the agenda that are of public interest and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the district. For the record, please state your name. The board has a policy of limiting any speaker to not more than 3 minutes. No one may give the time to a speaker during the public comment. The chair requests that all present refrain from any action that might disrupt the orderly course of the meeting. Coarse, crude, profane, or vulgar language, or unsolicited comments from the audience, which disrupts or disturbs the board meeting, may result in exclusion from the meeting. The board cannot take action on items not listed on the agenda, and board members will not enter into discussion with speakers, but may instead refer the matter to staff for report and recommendations of the future board meetings. Okay, are there any board comments? Ms. Sardin, do you have any board comment?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Hudson? Not at this time. Okay, item 4, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Okay, there's.
Dr. Sardin,
Aye.
Dr. Randall Crowe,
Aye.
Dr. Hudson,
Aye.
President Garnica.
Aye.
Thank you.
Item 6, reports. 6.1, update on operations, RUHS collaboration and transition efforts.
Good evening, President Garnica, board members, and Ms. Wade. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Michelle DeArmond, and I am a member of the RUHS team that has been supporting Palo Verde Hospital these past few months. One of the things that's been abundantly clear during our time here is how much this hospital means to the community. And so for that reason, with that in mind, we've decided to hold an open house on July 30th. So this is an opportunity for all of you, for the staff, for everyone to welcome in the community. Employees can bring their family, their neighbors, their friends, and have an opportunity to actually share what's been going on at the hospital and all the improvements that have been happening. As you can see from the flyer, this event will actually be an ice cream social. So that's going to run from 5:30 to 7:30. And it's really an opportunity for everybody to come in and see all of this work and talk and learn and get to meet our doctors, meet our staff, have an opportunity to really just spend some time socializing as a community. And people can come in anytime during that time period. We're going to have a kids activity space, and importantly, we'll have ice cream and pizzas. And we're also going to have some of our county partners there to share a little bit about what they do. First Five, which serves children 0 to 5, will be there to run the kids activity space. The Department of Public Social Services, WIC, the County Workforce Department, probation, many other departments will be on hand to share information about what they do and to tell the community a little bit about their services and help answer questions like that. So we're hoping all of you can work with us to spread the news about the event. There's a QR code that you can see on the flyer. We encourage people to RSVP. Of course, they don't have to, and not everybody likes to use a QR code and things like that, but it will help us know how much ice cream and pizzas and so on to buy. So we want to know a little bit about how people are going to be coming. We do, as you know, have lots of unused space in the hospital. And so this gives us an opportunity actually to keep people indoors because we know it will be hot. So we're very cognizant of that fact, and we are planning a flow that will allow people to come through and be comfortable during that time, and at the same time protecting patient privacy and keeping those areas separated. So we're planning for all of that. One of the things we want to do, if we can show the next slide, is share some of the improvements that have gone on. The cafeteria looks absolutely beautiful. And this is going to be the last stop on the visit. This is where we'll have the ice cream and the pizzas. And there's an exit door that we actually will be able to use there so people can exit from that space. But that's going to be one space that anybody who might remember when that cafeteria was available for the community sees. It looks quite different now, and the team's really done a beautiful job on that. Next slide. Many of you have already seen the work that's been done on the roof. This is just one example of something that we'll be highlighting. We're going to show pictures and before and after and let people know some of the things that have gone on over the past few months. And the next one. Oh, did we have another? Okay, well, we've also made some improvements to our laboratory, and there's some other changes that we'll be able to share with you. A lot of nice things from inside the facility. And coming this week, you're going to see some new painting on the exterior. And we're going to actually, we can go to the next one now. On the right-hand side is actually a depiction of what it will look like. This is something that we'll be starting in the next few days. We're really looking forward to that fresh look, a prominent way for it to be very visible in the community when they come through. Some nice colors, which are your colors, and also something that hopefully will kind of differentiate from some of the other buildings and landscape around there. We'll have a different color scheme that will really make it stand out and make that very obvious to your community. So that will be kind of the latest point of pride. So we'll keep working over the next month to prepare and get everything ready for that ice cream social. If you don't have any questions, I will hand it over to our CEO and let her take it from here.
I just want to reiterate the importance of the open house. Thank you very much for participating and really sharing the word. I think that the team at Palo Verde Hospital, all of you and the team from RUHS that has dedicated a lot of their lives to this community are very proud of the work. You guys have all lived through a lot of thick times and dark times together. And some may think that what we've done on the facility improvement stuff is cosmetic. It's not. It's really important maintenance to the building. Painting the facility is going to help protect it from turning to rubble. And so it might feel unnecessary, but really the work that we've done was absolutely necessary. It was about infection control. It was about safety. And so we're proud of how it looks. We're really proud of the heart and souls of the people in the facility, taking care of the people in our community every day. So please take time, bring people out. This is just the beginning. I have to remind myself that we've been here only 4 months. And in 4 months, Herculean tasks have taken foot. And we're very proud of that, but we have a long ways to go. So please have some patience with us. We still have little bumbles in the road. I do hear from some of the community members where we've maybe not done things perfectly. if you aim to improve our processes and serve our community well, please tell us, because if we don't know if things aren't working right, we can't fix them. And so we really appreciated the communication from the community when they said we've dropped the ball or we failed here. And they're a little frustrated with us, but it's an opportunity for us to hear them and fix the process, because there are a lot of broken processes that we're still fixing and finding. So thank you all. Thank you very much for your support through this process. It's been a fun 4 months. We're not done yet, and we have a long ways to go. Thank you.
I want to thank you guys. That place looks very nice, and it's just, I don't hear good things, so I don't know. I hear good stuff. I don't know.
No, I will say, yeah, I've only heard good things, so wow. But I can't say again, wow, in the 4 months, just to see the tremendous effects of it. Yes, it might seem cosmetic, but we also know that anything from the inside does affect the outside. So I do want to say thank you, RHS. Your dedication shows, and we feel it. The community feels it. So just keep up the good work. Thank you.
Well, I have to say that I was the recipient of those 2 phone calls. Lucky me. And, but in all fairness to that, between Leah Patterson and Lisa, it was dealt with immediately, and it was dealt with to their satisfaction. And I was quite happy with the outcome, and so were the patients. So thank you all for that.
Ms. Sardi, do you have anything you want to add to this report?
Yes, I just want to thank the hospital staff for all their hard work, and Jen and her amazing team from RUHS. And I mean, this is nothing short of a miracle, really. There's no way that we could have done this on our own. And I'm very grateful, and I'm sure the community is very grateful. A lot of it had to do with safety and the attention that's being focused on patient care and outcomes is just amazing. And in addition to that, our hospital, even though we're in a rural area, the quality of care is really improving, as evidenced by patient satisfaction. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback. So I just want to thank everyone for their efforts and hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item 6.2, financial update. I turn the time over to Interim Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Zamora.
Good evening, President, board members. Joe Zamora, Interim Chief Financial Officer. I will be providing the financial update through the end of May. I'm going to bring it up on screen. You can see our May income statement. Revenues for the month of May were $1.2 million. Year to date, revenue through May was $17.6 million, comprised of about $10.7 million of patient revenue and $7 million of supplemental revenue. We're putting out a projection for year end where we project to end the fiscal year as of June 30th. Revenues are projected to be $18.8 million. Moving into the expenditure categories for May, we were $1.9 million for the month. Year to date, $18.6 million, and projected at year end is $20.7 million. So that leaves us with a net financial position of negative $742,000 for May. Year to date, May, $894,000, and projected at year end is a negative $1.9 million. Ending cash balances at the end of May was $6.7 million. So we do still have cash on hand to support this while we continue to work on additional administrative, finance, business cycle opportunities for improvement. And I did want to add, this is last month we talked about the fact that we were still building sort of the accounting infrastructure, internal controls. And last month it was largely cash basis. We are starting to move more into an accrual basis of accounting, which is more industry standard and governmental requirements. So this is that first phase into that. As we mentioned before, each month we will continue to make improvements, but I feel like feel much more comfortable that this accrual basis of accounting that you have before you is getting closer and much more in line with what we should continue to see. With that, that's the end of my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Hardy, do you have any questions? for
I
Mr.
don't,
Zamora?
Joe and his team answered everything thoroughly earlier. Thank you.
Next item, 6.3, medical staff report. Well, I turn the time over to the interim chief medical officer.
Thank you, President and Directors, community members. It's great to be here. Our staff report will be short today with an additional request. So we continue to be successful in moving our new emergency room physicians into provisional status and getting their proctoring ongoing, and all is going well there. Our medical staff team members continue to step up and take new roles within committees that have been stood up and be active participants and members in reviewing elements of the hospital for safety and action. We're excited to see that the numbers of the patients coming to the ER, not that we want the community to be injured, but if they need us, we want to be there for them, and we're seeing them show up into the ER, and hopefully the community is starting to see improved metrics. We will be bringing moving forward to you guys some of those metrics, but we are seeing door to patient times really decrease compared to prior, as well as door to decision and total time spent in the ER. So we're excited to see some improvements in that area. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the medical staff.
Oh, I'm good. Thank you for your entire staff.
Ms. Hudson, yeah,
No, I'm just thrilled that we have change.
Yep, we're here for you.
Ms. Hardy, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, no, thank you. Thank you so much for everything.
Next item 7. Consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda will be voted in a single motion unless pulled from the consent for comment by the board member, department staff, or member of the public. Members of the public who wish to comment on an item listed on the consent agenda may do so by submitting a speaker card to the clerk or the board prior to the clerk board update. The board has a policy of limiting any speaker to not more than 2 minutes. Consent items that are pulled will be voted on separately in accordance with the standard meeting. Ms. Gonzalez, please remind us which consent agenda items.
Yes, ma'am. No consent agenda items were pulled and there were no comment request cards submitted. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Call for the question.
Director Sarden,
Aye.
Director Randall Crowe,
Aye.
Director Hudson,
Aye.
President Garnica.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, next item 8, business items. I would like to turn this over to legal counsel, Ms. Wade, to conduct the election of vice president.
Yes, if I may, please have Ms. Gonzalez first do the staff.
Thank you, Ms. Wade. The Palo Verde Healthcare District Board of Directors intends to conduct the election of board officers, which was not completed in December 2025 as required by the district bylaws. Under the bylaws, another election of officers will also occur at the first regular meeting in December following the 2026 general elections. The board officers are president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. Although the district bylaws require the annual election of board officers each December, the election was not held in 2025 due to the district's financial and imminent closure and other urgent operational matters that required the board's immediate attention. In addition, while the Riverside University Health System strike team was deployed to stabilize it and assess district's operations, the board maintained the existing leadership structure to preserve continuity during the transition period. Conducting the election at this time will restore the board's compliance with its governance requirements and reestablish formal leadership roles. The election will support adherence to the district's governing documents and help ensure the continued effective operations of the Palo Verde Healthcare District in coordination with Riverside University Health System. There is no fiscal impact associated with the election of board officers. And the recommendation at the time is to proceed with the election of board officers or at a minimum, elect a vice president to serve until the next election in December.
I'd like to nominate, Jacqueline.
If I just may say,
Oh, I thought,
okay, first of all, let me just say that currently your president is Carmela Guernica. There's no vice president. Secretary is Trina Sarton, and the treasurer is Carmela Guernica as well. So what I need to know is if you're just going to fill the vice president seat or you're going to fill all seats. So if I can just get consensus from this board.
My input is to leave the current seats as is. There's so many changes going on right now, and we're almost at the finish line here. Anyway, we only have a few short months left, but a lot of work to do. So that would be my request as a board member.
Okay.
Can you clarify that, please, Trina? It's Jacqueline, sorry.
I'm
How can
sorry?
you say that? She just wants to fill the open seat, and that is the vice president seat. And
Yes,
leave
just the vice president seat and for stability of the hospital.
Hudson, Director Hudson, did you have a preference?
I don't think it's appropriate to serve two positions on the board like treasurer and chairman, but president, but I don't have real preference either way, whatever.
Okay. Director,
Definitely the vice president. I do have some things because even if Carmela's gone, then that means two positions are gone. So I am leaning towards, yeah, we should probably do both of those, the vice president and the treasurer
okay. And
at the minimum.
President Green.
whatever the board wants, I mean, just gotta change, change.
Okay, so we have two for two seats, one
I,
and the other.
I'm okay with Brady just doing the vice president. We've gone this far with this.
I have
Yeah,
a question,
I'm-
Lena. I have a question
Yes.
for legal counsel. Lena, my question is directed towards you. Is there any conflict with having the role of two, the treasurer and the board chair?
No, there's no provision in your bylaws that prohibits that. And that's where you would look for guidance.
Okay, and is there any duties that would suffer from each role that Carmela is now holding?
Well, pursuant to the bylaws that you last adopted, the roles of treasurer and secretary are really ceremonial roles.
Mhm.
So your CEO is charged with ensuring that there are staff members who really perform those duties. So the secretarial role is really performed by the board clerk, and the treasurer role is actually performed by your interim CFO.
Okay, thank you for answering that and clarifying it.
I mean, if it doesn't, we're not breaking any rules, so that, yeah, we'll just do this. I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay with just filling one role.
Okay, so let me just read the rules real quick, okay? Under Rosenberg's rules, nominations do not require a second. They merely require that the person nominated accept the nomination. Self-nominations are permitted. Board members may make comments before voting. Public comment will occur before the vote on the office. The board will be voting on the individuals in the order of the nominations, and a majority vote is required. That's a simple majority. So now the floor is open for nominations.
I'd like to nominate.
Any other nominations? No, okay. So, any comments from the board?
Yes, that's good. That's good.
She's, I know it's gonna be here for meetings.
Any comment from the public? Yeah, so we may proceed with the vote, Joanna.
Director Sarton,
Aye.
Director Jacqueline Randall Crowe,
Aye.
Director Hudson,
Aye.
President Garnica.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, Next item. For interim Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Zamora. Mr. Zamora?
Hello, apologies.
Zamora.
Sorry, I was having some technical difficulties. Let me bring up, I want to present this item on regarding the fiscal year 26-27 budget. I'm going to bring that up really quick on screen so that you can see it. You also have it in your board packet. There we go. I believe it was last month or the month before, the board approved a continuing resolution to allow us to keep operating during the current fiscal year, but that authority was set to expire at the end of June. The item you have on agenda today will approve our fiscal year 26-27 budget for the period beginning July 1st, 2026. You can see it up on screen. Sorry, just trying to find one thing. We're projecting here, this is our projection for the year. Our projected expenditures are going to be $24.3 million. Total patient revenue is projected at 7.9 million. The patient and the other revenues are 7.9 million. And just a brief update in comparison to the income statement we just showed, which had patient revenues 11 million for this fiscal year. That difference between the 11 million and the 7.9 million that we're projecting for next year is just the, I guess, reduction in revenue associated with the inpatient beds that are no longer being operated. So this 7.9 reflects current activities of the ED and outpatient clinics. And then we still are projecting supplemental revenue of $7 million. That brings our total revenue and funding to 14.9 million. And that leaves our projected net financial position preliminarily at 9.4 million for the year. I will say that does, these budgeted expenditures are sort of full year view, and it had anticipated us to have to start to repay the distressed hospital loan that was scheduled to begin June 1st. As we reported last month, we did receive approval from HCI for loan forgiveness in the amount of 1.9 million for next fiscal year. And so that's one of the offsets that you have below that. The other piece supporting the 9.4 million, partially offsetting that $9.4 million deficit, is $3 million related to AB 108 grant that was approved. That was the small hospital grant program the state approved last month, and we had scrambled to submit an application. We were one of 5 hospitals to receive approval for grant funds, and that $3 million will help tremendously in offsetting that $9.4 million shortfall. And that leaves us with a sort of a net shortfall of 4.5 million. That will come out of, sort of the one-time reserves that we have, the cash balance that we have, while we pursue other operational, financial, administrative improvements that will hopefully lead to some increased revenues, reduced costs. I think we've kind of talked previously just about a lot of the opportunities that we still see out there, but in the spirit of being conservative and trying to present a budget that will hopefully, be worst case, we're seeking your approval to adopt this budget for the start of the fiscal year.
So is there a motion to approve the healthcare district budget for the fiscal year 26-27?
Also move.
President, board comment.
Okay, so is there any comment on Mr. Zamora's presentation?
I do. I want to say, first of all, thank you very much for that AB 108 and all the efforts that you and your team went through and got that $3 million. I saw it from everywhere first about it. So thank you. The community was cheering. And then we got the notice. So thank you also, all the team who was able to get that. Because I do know, yes, we were one of 5. And I do know the difficulties of them actually even considering us. So thank you very much for that. And then second, I just want to clarify, the budget that you presented is based on right now, if we just continue services, we continue everything as is. That's what the budget is reflecting, correct?
Correct, yes.
So thank you.
Hudson, you have any comment regarding?
Not at this time.
Ms. Sardi, do you have any?
No, I think Joe explained everything very comprehensively today. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, everyone, for your support. We appreciate it.
Madam President, would you like to open the public comment?
Sure, we got a public comment. Okay. So, oh, we have the mayor.
I just want, if it's possible, to get a copy of that sent to Mallory City Hall budget. And the financial one that was on the other. And I
Send that.
should.
Comment? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion?
I'll also
Make a
move.
motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Second.
Call for the question?
Director Sardi,
Aye.
Director Randall Crowe,
Aye.
Director Hudson,
Aye.
President Arnica.
Aye. Okay, item 5, presentation. Board training, ethics, parliamentary training, the Brown Act and Public Records Act.
Yes, thank you. So first I want to introduce Ray Masika. I believe he's online as well. He is the supervising deputy county counsel. And he's participating with me on this and will provide some anecdotes regarding how the county conducts its business, adheres to the Brown Act and what have you. So as you all know, pursuant to the MSA that was entered into by the county and the district, it contemplated board training. So this is our first board training. We did one last year, I believe in January 2025. And unfortunately, I don't believe any member of the public attended. And so it's really nice to have the public here as well. And if we can go on to the next slide. So in order to have effective meetings, the public should be when a public meeting is well conducted, it instills public confidence and encourages public engagement. And so how we like to set up our meetings is to have the item introduced by the president. So that's simply reading that agenda item. And then the microphone essentially goes to the staff who makes the staff report. And the staff report is something that we've encouraged. It's not required under the Brown Act, but it summarizes the item before the board and the item, the recommended actions to be taken. At that point, the microphone goes back to the board for comments, actually for questions to the staff to help frame the agenda item for the public and for the board. So there's no deliberation at this point, simply questions. At that point, the board chair opens public comment. Now you guys have public comment cards, which are encouraged, but also we understand that members of the public may get here late. And so I believe it's the direction of this board to go ahead and allow public comment, even if a public comment card has not been submitted. Following all public comment, which typically is 3 minutes, and that should be enforced and be consistent, or else it's not equitable. So you want to make sure you keep it to 3 minutes, Brad. So close public comment, then it goes back to the board for deliberation and discussion. So this is when you can set forth your arguments for or against, incorporate some of the public comments perhaps that you received, and then it's time for motion and a range. Next slide. So in order to have an effective meeting as well, it has to be, or it should be, a meeting in which there is courtesy and decorum, displayed not only by the board who sets the standard, who sets the standard in the room, but also the public. And so at this time, the speakers should always be recognized by the chair, and that is to have an effective meeting again. You don't want people speaking over one another. Board members all must have an opportunity to speak at least one time, and then it can go around again, but everyone should have an opportunity to speak. The chair should always ensure that debate and discussion of an item focuses on the item and policy in question. So you don't want to veer off. Of course, these are Brown Act meetings. And so you're only really supposed to deliberate, discuss the item before you, not to move off into other items that may come before the board at a later time. Debate on policy is healthy. Debate on personalities is not. So this is to keep it professional, not to, again, throw jabs, and I don't see that. But just to also just to be mindful to keep it on target on the agenda item before you. And the chair is responsible for ensuring decorum is maintained. So sometimes when people, for instance, may yell out and it's not public comment time, just remind them gently. And when the opportunity to speak arises, then that person can come up and speak. Next slide. So the rules of order are meant to create an atmosphere where the members of the body and members of the public can engage in business efficiently, fairly, and with full participation. And this instills confidence by your public. So that's the purpose for this. So you always want to maintain a meeting that is people are behaving in a courteous manner and decorum is adhered to. Next slide. And so what we say in our office is that there are 3 P's for an efficient meeting, and that is for the board members to be prepared. And I believe that's really happening now, particularly with the efforts of your CEO. So she's meeting with everyone before the meeting, going through the package, answering any questions. This is a great time to ask staff questions that staff can prepare for, and at the meeting, they'll be able to give you the response, and also hopefully that would be responsive and something that the public may be interested in as well. Be professional at the meetings and always be polite, not only to one another, but to your public. Next slide. So now we're moving into ethics. And so this is Aldo Leopold. He's an I don't even know what's the word. Ethicist. I don't want to say esthetician. No. So ethical behavior is doing the right thing when no one else is watching, even when doing the wrong thing is legal. Next slide. So these are 6 universal ethical values: trustworthiness, loyalty, responsibility, respect, fairness, and compassion. And when we talk about responsibility there, it's you all have an obligation to represent the interests of your public. That's all of your constituents. Next slide. So ethics are what we ought to do, and the laws, that's before, that's what you're required to do. So you can always go above and beyond what's required under the law. Next slide. So these are the general ethics principles. These are the decision-making process. What is the right and ethical thing to do? So again, the right thing, following the law, of course. The ethical thing to do may be something more. What is it that your constituents are asking for? What do they need? What do they want? How can you best serve your public at the hospital? What would make the public feel best and or inspire public confidence? What do you want to read about yourself on the front page of the newspaper? And why we put that there is, it takes a lifetime to build your reputation in this community, and it only takes one little mistake, even if it's inadvertent, to blemish your reputation. And so that's why we put that there. What do you want to read about yourself in the newspaper? You want to read that you've done something commendable, that you're a good example for your community. And again, how do you want to be remembered? That's your legacy. And as members of this community and as leaders in this community, people are looking at you. And so you want to, I hope, set an example. And so when you no longer want to serve in this capacity, that there are people who want to fill those shoes and also serve this community. Next slide. And Ray, if you have anything you'd like to add, please feel free to interrupt me. So
okay,
resolving it. Yes, thank you. Is there anything you want to add so far?
No, everything's fine. Thank you.
You got it. So resolving an ethical issue, 3-step analysis. Step 1, what does the law say about the potential course of action? And again, this was the floor. Step 2, is the potential course of action consistent with your values? And step 3, what will the public's perception be of the action? Do you want to see it reported on the front page of the newspaper, as we just said? Next slide. So these are the core principles. Public officials do not use their offices for personal financial gain. So there's conflict rules. The FEPC has set them out, and there's actually training for this. So I'm not going to spend too much time on conflicts. The training it comes under Assembly Bill 1234. It's 2 hours every 2 years, and Joanna can arrange that for you. And you can do it online at home. So holding public office does not entitle one to personal advantages or perks. So there was an instance that I'm aware of an elected treasurer who was cited by a police officer in the city in which he worked. And he went to the chief of police, and asked for his citation to be withdrawn. So you can't do that, of course. So that's not a perk of the office. And he shouldn't have put the chief of police in that position. Transparency protects or promotes public trust and confidence. And we see that here. We saw that here. Your public was crying out for more transparency. And I believe this body and your staff has strived to produce that. Merit-based decision making based on fair processes produces the best results for the public. So you want to be equitable. You don't want to play favorites. You shouldn't have only certain fragments of your community who you represent. You represent everyone. Next slide. So now we're moving on to the Brown Act. In all meetings of a legislative body of a local agency shall be open and public. The purpose is to promote transparency and public participation. Next slide. So the Brown Act was enacted in 1953, and recently in Senate Bill 707, it was the first major overhaul of the Brown Act. So in this legislation, the legislators created essentially a new body, and that's called an eligible legislative body. And so those are counties, cities in large counties, in special districts that are large. They meet certain thresholds, like having really large budget, having a certain number of employees. You don't qualify as that type of body. So the changes in the Brown Act that are applicable to you became effective in January of this year. We're going to go through some of this. And I've already worked with Joanna on these. So next slide. So the open meetings apply to governing bodies of the local agency. So that's you. So that's why all of your meetings, whether they be special, regular, emergency meetings, those are all open to the public. But the Brown Act is also applicable to ad hoc committees and advisory committees. I'm sorry, they're actually exempt. Standing committees. So your standing committees that are set forth in your bylaws, like your finance committee, that's one that comes to mind. Those are subject to the Brown Act, despite the number of board members on them. So anytime you hold those meetings, you have to notice it and have it open to the public. Now, ad hoc committees and advisory committees are not subject to the Brown Act, generally speaking. So ad hoc committees are temporary in nature, and they have a really specific jurisdiction. And so when those meetings happen, those are not subject to the Brown Act. Right now, although you have standing committees, they're not active. Your CEO has made a representation to you that there will be one meeting, your regular meeting at the end of the month. We try to hold this staff to that. And so you don't have standing committees to worry about. Next slide. So sometimes a majority of you may meet and it doesn't necessarily fall under the Brown Act. So there's some public conferences that you may go to. Say you go to the CSDA conference, which is the California Special Districts Association conference. So you don't have to, even though you're all there, you don't have to agendize that, but you have to be mindful. Sometimes, board members will a majority of them will be in a certain seminar and start asking questions about your particular district. You need to avoid that. So either a minority of you go, or you simply don't talk about your particular district. You talk about hypotheticals. Sometimes there may be, one of you may have a child who's getting married and you want to invite all of your board members. You don't have to agendize that as a public meeting, but again, you have to be mindful not to discuss or deliberate about board business. So there's recently, several years ago, there was an opinion about state of the city. So those used to not have to be agendized because the chambers usually put those on. But there has been legislation now that they have to be agendized. So those require a notice meeting. The next slide. So these are the different types of meetings under the Brown Act. Your regular meeting. So those are set by resolution or the bylaws, and they require 72 hours notice. That's not only notice, but also the posting of the agenda. Now, what the Brown law says about the agenda is that it just has to give enough information to your public so they know what you're going to be deliberating and they can decide whether or not they want to attend the meetings. You have special meetings. So those are meetings that come on days not your regular meeting date. So those require 24 hours notice. And all that can be discussed at the meeting is what's on the agenda. So even during public comment, it should be limited to what's on the agenda. Emergency meetings, and we had one of those back in December, I believe in 2024. I don't recall when we had that. Do you remember we had an emergency meeting? So that's when something just comes up and you need to discuss right away the action you can take about a certain meeting. And so the notice that's required is just reasonable notice. So it's something less than 24 hours. Otherwise, it would be a special. Adjourned meetings, which we've done before, happen particularly when you don't have a quorum. And so in those instances, either whoever's here may announce the adjourned meeting or the board clerk / secretary can do so. And that requires also posting within 24 hours at your place of the meeting and where you generally post about the upcoming date and location and time. And you have to stick to the same agenda, or you simply just need to re-agendize and re-notice the meeting. Ray, any questions or any additions?
Yeah, you just have to make sure that that you follow the Brown Act rules for agendizing and providing the proper notice, depending on under the circumstances. And the adjourned meetings are also kind of meetings where you continued to another date that is not your regular meeting date. So, because there are certain matters that may take more than one meeting to come to an action. So that's a type of meeting that you can use in order to handle the matter, have public participation, and move to a board action.
Thank you. Next slide. So as you've seen, under the guidance of RUHS, they brought back the consent calendar. And that really leads to a more efficient meeting. These are for uncontroversial items like the minutes, other items such as we did a consolidation of your election today. That was on your consent calendar. So at some agencies, only a board member is allowed to pull a consent calendar item. Here, not only the board members, but also members of your public may pull an item. And in which case, you would vote on all the items that remain on the consent calendar, and then you do the remaining items, in order, just as you do in open regular business items. Next slide. So one thing that SB 707 did was update some of the teleconferencing rules. So this one remains the same. This is the traditional teleconferencing rule. Now, this rule says that board members may participate from different locations, but it has to be on the agenda. So you need to identify the board member and the address. And the agenda must be posted at each location that will be remote. So it has to be less than a quorum of folks who are participating remotely, and wherever they're participating, the agenda needs to be posted there. Each location must have public access. So even if it's at your home, in your hotel room, If there's someone who comes and wants to participate from that location, they're entitled to under the Brown Act. The public must have an opportunity to speak at each location. A quorum must be inside the jurisdiction, and the votes must be by roll call. And generally speaking, that's what you do anyway, so that's no different than roll call votes. So let's see. So the last part, this is directly from the Brown Act. The body must conduct teleconference meetings in a manner that protects the statutory and constitutional rights of the parties or the public appearing before the legislative body or local agency. Next slide. Okay, so this was recently updated in the Brown Act by SB 707. So there's a way to participate. Sometimes this comes up, after the agenda's been posted and there's not enough time to include the traditional remote participation requirements. So these are for just cause, and it used to say for emergency. So now it's all been lumped together as just cause. Before, when it was going to be for emergency purposes, there was a requirement that there would be a vote of the body at the beginning of the meeting to allow the person to participate remotely. That vote is no longer required. So a quorum must still meet in person at the public location. And just cause can be for these reasons: childcare or caregiving needs for a family member, having a contagious illness, a physical or mental disability, traveling for official government business, caring for an immunocompromised family member, or a personal or family medical emergency, military service. So for any of those reasons, you can participate remotely, and you don't have to open up your home if you're at your home or your hospital room. That doesn't apply. Next slide. So these are the attendance rules, and they're essentially what I already went over, so we can go through the next slide. So there are limits set forth in the Brown Act now. So if you meet regularly once a month or less, you can use this these teleconferencing rules only for 2 meetings in a year. Okay, next slide. So now SB 707 codified the rules for participating under the ADA remotely. This was actually first set forth in an Attorney General opinion, and so now it's been codified. So what this says, if a member of your board has a qualifying disability to join meetings remotely, they can do so. They don't have to attend in person. And when doing so under the ADA, of course, they submit a letter from their physician that indicates that they have to do, or he's recommending that they participate remotely. They must have live two-way radio and audio unless their disability requires them to keep the camera off. And they must state the names of any adults in the room with them and explain their general relationship. For example, staff, family member, etc. So when they are participating remotely, they are treated as though they are participating in person. So for purposes of quorum and deciding how many people are at the meeting, they are deemed to be at the meeting. Next slide. Let's see here. Oh, okay, so this has been codified as well. So if you remember during COVID, there was an executive order that allowed you all to participate remotely, which was odd because it was a law, right? And you generally can't do executive orders for that. So now it's been codified and set forth in the Brown Act. So this allows for teleconferencing when there's been a declared state of emergency. Next slide. So under the Brown Act as well, they have updated and now make reference to current technology, which was missing. And so boards have been allowed to remove disruptive members of the community who participate in person. And now it's set forth in the law that when people are disruptive on Zoom or whatever remote platform they may be using, they may be removed as well if they're disruptive, blurting things out, saying disrespectful things of that nature, using bad language. Next slide. So these are reasons for a closed session that apply to you. So on the right, those are the reasons set forth in the ground. Real property transactions, litigation, public employment, labor negotiations, threats to public security, and then just public security generally. But in addition, because you're a healthcare district, there's some others that are applicable to you, and you can find those in the health and safety code, not merely the government code. And this would be medical staff credentialing and peer review, medical audit and quality assurance, and you'll see those consistently on your agendas. Trade secrets, and those are two provisions. And Jen, you know, I wanted you to speak on this because I know this comes up, trade secrets and using closed session for that purpose.
Some examples of that would be when we're negotiating with a commercial insurance company on a rate they're going to pay us, they wouldn't want other hospitals or other healthcare entities to know our rates. I would think to some of our strategy work that we want to do. I don't think not necessarily, there's not a bunch of people vying to do the work that we're doing here in this region, but I think protecting that and preserving the work that we're doing is going to protect this region as well. So those are some examples as to why we would keep some of this trade secrets.
Thank you. Okay, next slide. And so this slide is meant to help you and determine best ways to avoid an inadvertent Brown Act violation. And so the first is we call a daisy chain. And that's when one member of the board calls another member of the board, you know, they talk about how they're going to vote, they deliberate. The second person calls the next, discloses that first conversation and does the same thing. And they do it all the way around until more than a quorum of the board has, you know, been touched. And so that's a daisy chain violation. You want to avoid those. Another one is a hub and spoke. So there's someone in the middle, right? And so that person calls member A, they discuss how the board member is going to vote, deliberate, whatever. Then that person, the middle person, will speak to another board member, disclose what was discussed, and engage in the same, and that goes all the way around. That's a hub and spoke. So the CEO can do that. She can reach out like she meets with you, but she doesn't disclose to you, you know, her discussions, how people are going to vote. That's perfectly wrong. That's fine. That's acceptable. Next slide. Here we talk about public speech, and that's, you know, central to the Brown Act. The public has the right to be heard. So this is on items of general interest to the public when it's at a meeting, before or during consideration of the item. So you want to receive the public's comment before you have deliberated, and certainly before you take action, so you can take that into consideration. And on items not on the agenda at a regular meeting. So you shouldn't see that particular item on a special meeting because, again, you need to concentrate on what's on that agenda. Next slide. Public participation. So limits are fine as long as they are content friendly or content fair. I don't think that's right. They're content friendly and consistently enforced. So as I mentioned before, you all have a 3-minute timeline, and that really needs to be universal and equitably applied. Sometimes people say, please may I have additional time, but then your next person's going to do that and is going to be entitled to the next time. And you want to, again, have efficient and consistent meetings. So, and we already talked about the law regarding disruption. And what it says is, of course, you can remove people who are disruptive. They're interfering with public business, but they should be entitled to a warning, maybe 1 or 2, prior to removal. That's the last thing you want to do. But sometimes in order to be able to continue with the public business, that may be what you need to do. Next slide. Public records. So essentially every record is a public record, but there are certain instances when the records are exempt from disclosure. Messages sent on any platform that pertain to the public's business are subject to disclosure. So that's text messages, emails, you name it. They're all potentially subject to disclosure. Very few records in the possession of a public agency are not public records. So that an example are drafts of documents. Those are not public records until they're in final. Next slide. Records request process. So although we like requests to be in writing, that's not required under the law. The request may be oral. Content, the request can be broadly made about a certain subject. No need to request a specific document. However, you must be clear enough that the person looking for the documents can find the documents requested. So you want to include, a time period that you're looking for the document, that you're requesting documents on. And if you can identify the document, that's really helpful. And the agency is not required to create documents. So they're only documents that are in existence. Next slide. Exempt information, and these are examples, and they're set forth in the Public Records Act. Attorney-client communications, deliberative process privilege, drafts or notes are not retained in the regular course of business, records relating to existing claims or litigation, and confidential information. So what we mean there by records related to existing claims or litigation, those are essentially exempt. However, when the litigation is over or the claim has been settled, they become public records. And here we have the response, and actually there's pending legislation to change this. So right now, 10 days to get back, let the requester know that you're looking for you received the request, you're looking for the documents. If you can get it to the documents to them at that time, great. But if not, you set forth what the expected timeline is. And if you need additional time, 14 additional days, that's allowed under the grant. So what the pending legislation is currently these days, they don't say business days or calendar days. So what we use right now is its calendar dates. And what the legislator is presenting at this time is to change that to business days. So that would give your folks additional time to respond, particularly when there's like a holiday or weekends, things like that. Next slide.
Lena, the only comment I want to, apologize for interrupting, but the only thing that I'd like to add to that is just know that the response time doesn't necessarily mean it's the production time. It's just the response on whether there are records or not, and whether there's anything that you may have to not produce because an exemption applies. Just wanted to add that.
Thank you. That's important. I know Joanna's trying to stick to that 10-day production time, and it's really difficult at times, especially when there's really large requests.
If I may add also, we're obligated to produce documents that exist. So at times people will request analysis or documents that don't exist. We are not required, right?
That's correct.
Submit those.
Yeah, and sometimes they ask for, attorney recommendations, or I don't know, the deliberative process and our research, and that is not subject to disclosure.
Yes, Jen makes a great point there. It's not to answer questions. The PRA is for making records that are available for the public to be made available.
Yes, thank you. Like sometimes people will ask for attendance of board members at meetings. That's not something that your clerk maintains. But if we can show them where the minutes are kept, they're able to, figure that out. So next slide. This will be very quick as well. Fair process law. Everyone has a right to be treated fairly by governmental processes. Who you are and who you know does not matter. The public's perception that decisions are made fairly, you build trust and confidence in the public. And 3, an elected official has a duty to act for the benefit of the public. That's the entire public. Cannot use authority for personal purposes. Okay, next, and we've gone through this, Jen, we're almost done. Woo-hoo. Yes, so this one is, what are the roles of the board of directors and the CEO? So the board governs, the CEO manages. The board focuses on what the organization should achieve, while the CEO determines how to achieve it. And so we came up with this little kind of table. So the board of directors sets policy and strategic direction, and the CEO implements that. The board of directors hires, evaluates, and oversees the CEO, The CEO does that with everyone else beneath her. So every other employee, that's under the purview of the CEO. Board of Director approves the budgets and major expenditures. And the CEO and her staff, or interim CFO, they prepare the budgets and they manage resources. The board establishes organizational goals and the CEO executes those organizational goals. The board provides governance and oversight, and your CEO provides leadership and administration. The board represents the community's interests, and your CEO leads staff and hospital operations. So there's very distinct roles, and frankly, I believe they're there to also protect you all. So you don't engage in the day-to-day, you don't expose yourself unnecessarily to even personal liability when things go awry. And so the last slide are some of the trainings that you are required to have. So the first is AB 1234 ethics. That's the conflicts. Also, they do touch on Brown Act, Public Records Act. That's the FPPC requirement. And you need to take this within 6 months of taking office and then every 2 years thereafter. The other is fiscal and financial training, SB 827. This is new. This came into effect January of this year. So within 6 months of taking office and then every 2 years thereafter. This talks about fiscal responsibility, budgeting, just a number of different issues are covered. Since most of you were already in office, you're not required to take this quite yet. You have the 2 years. Jacqueline's new to our board, and anyone who comes on new in December, it needs to be within 6 months of taking office. And Director Randall Crowe, I believe that's being set up for you if it hasn't already happened. The next is sexual harassment training or prevention. And so not only your employees, but also board members, management, you all need to take this as well. Again, 6 months to 1 year after taking office. Now, this training for staff would be 1 hour, and for management board members, that's 2 hours of training. So you had that last year in January. It was offered here. And so I believe we need to schedule that again. There's no requirement under the Brown Act or the Public Records Act out there, but it's recommended. And also, you know about your Form 700s. Those are all due, what was it, Joanne, in March? When were they due? April. So you're all up to date. Those are all have been filed with Joanne. And that's it. Any questions? Well, thank you all very much. Ray, did you want to make any closing remarks?
No, I just want to commend you, Lena, for a thorough presentation.
You got it. Thank you. I thank you for your assistance, and yeah.
Thank you, Lena. Really appreciate this. It's very helpful. The board didn't get any training until you came on as counsel, and I think that was like last March or something. So this is much needed. Thank you very much.
Before you jump off, I want to put you a little bit on the spot, and you can decline answering, but this is a procedural question that we've tried to implement here. When we go to closed session, and we're anticipating that there's nothing to report out from closed session, does the Board of Supervisor meeting adjourn the meeting so that nobody has to return back to the dais and close the session after closed session, or adjourn the meeting after closed session? I'm trying to save everybody's time here. The Board of Directors here, so that if we're going to go to closed session following tonight's board, for example, if there's no anticipated report outs from closed session, could the president adjourn the meeting and then the people could leave if there's nothing to report out? And that's just a question for you, Ray.
Yeah, from my experience, and it's not just Riverside County, but other counties and also other agencies, when we know there's nothing to report, we actually put that in the record after the closed session item is read into the record, and the chair, or in this case, the president, would adjourn the meeting, but on the record indicating that the members will be proceeding into closed session.
So I'm looking at Lena. That means to me that nobody, the chair, nobody, none of the board members have to return to this room following closed session to adjourn the meeting if we follow that process.
Yes, I just wonder about when you don't anticipate there'll be action, but there is actually action. When is that reported?
So if there is action, then actually you will have to go back on the record and reopen it and announce and do a report out. So if there is a chance of a report out, I would recommend not adjourning so that the board members can go back on the dais and then or you make the report out immediately on the record.
Thank you.
So that means we, before we go into closed session, we know that there's not going to be any reportable action. That means we can just announce it before we go into closed session.
Yeah, so we probably should do it on a case by case basis.
Yeah.
We can review the agenda and decide. But yes, and then despite whether or not you adjourn, Joanna and I can come back and make that report. So that the public knows that it's preserved on the record. Okay, now we do have just, I think, 2 or 3 more slides regarding media. I think. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Welcome board. It's me again, Shelby Arman with RUHS. Just want to walk you through a little bit about some media, social media training. Some of this is going to overlap with what you heard from Lena. And there's a reason for that because all of this kind of speaks to one another, the laws and the social media rules on everything. So next slide. So the Brown Act also pertains to social media. You can have a serial meeting violation via social media. So you can all start commenting on something together on an item that is maybe coming up on an agenda, and you've now had a serial meeting through social media. So the rules that Lena spoke about still govern you in your social media world. So you need to be very mindful of that. Sometimes people kind of forget in social media and think that maybe rules of decorum or Brown Act or conflicts and so on don't apply. They all still apply, even when you're in that realm. So you need to be really careful about that, not engaging in an online discussion about something, even if somebody is really aggravating you. You're feeling very frustrated, like you just want to speak out and set the record straight. You have to just kind of refrain from that because again, you're in a public position and you have to make sure that you don't use those social media platforms to get yourself into a Brown Act violation. So you have to be very careful about that. Even liking, commenting, sharing, reposting, Director Randall posts something and President Garnica thinks it's great and posts it on her page. And, Director Hudson says, oh yeah, me too. And she posted somewhere. And now we've had a serial meeting just through likes and comments and reshares. So we just have to really refrain from that and kind of step away from the keyboard in those regards.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
So under SB 707, you're even prohibited from doing little thumbs up emoji, even one. It said, so it's gotten to be really strict. You can't even do that.
You have to be really, really mindful of that. It's a new world for most of us. When I first started working in government, these weren't even concerns or thoughts that we had, and we had to learn and figure things out. And there are rules that have come into play. And again, it also goes back to the regular rules when you're thinking about what are we doing to make sure that we're not creating serial meetings, communication outside of the public forum, all those kinds of things. We have to maintain that throughout. So we have official district communications, and this is again designed to make sure that we're maintaining that professional public facing front, that we're communicating effectively, directly, and clearly with everyone, and we're coordinating together. And you actually have policy that speaks to that in terms of having your CEO and your PIO be the ones who speak for you here at the district. And if you're making public statements, and I think this is in some of the other slides, so you can speak to this more, but as an individual member, obviously you can do that. But when it comes to speaking for the district, your policy currently is your CEO and your PIO. And we need to make sure channels go through those same channels. The questions go through those same channels as well. Go ahead, next slide. And so when we get those media inquiries, we need to make sure that those get routed through to the CEO or PIO. Most of the time, people know to send those in through those channels, but not always. So if you happen to find yourself being contacted about a media inquiry, please make sure to process that through here so that we can communicate and have the CEO and the PIO handle the response on that. And then, of course, you all know that your closed session information is confidential, and that's nothing that can be shared in a public manner. So if we go to the next slide, district social media accounts. We do now have an official social media account, as you know, for the district. And this is something that we're making sure that we're abiding by all of those public rules and regulations on this. And we only have authorized individuals who have the keys to those accounts and are able to make those posts on behalf of the district. And we're making sure that all that content that is put on there is in compliance with all of our district policies and applicable laws. So next slide on the board member personal social media use. Obviously, you're an individual, you're a private individual, you're still able to maintain social media accounts all your own, but you need to be careful about making sure that your personal opinions don't ever appear to represent the district, because you all make district choices as a board and have votes on those. So you just always have to be really mindful about how those things, how they come off, and make sure you don't create the appearance of your individual viewpoint representing the board as a whole. So, what of anything else on social media or media? If you have any questions, we're happy to answer those too. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Yes, we will now go into closed session.
Yes, 2 items. 9.1, hospital quality assurance report, pursuant to Health and Safety Code, section 32155. In conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, that's the bankruptcy, pursuant to government code section 54956.9D1. So we do not anticipate any board.
We're now going to closed session.
Thank you. So with respect to closed session, there were 2 items. 9.1, hospital quality assurance report, no reportable action. And item 9.2, conference with legal counsel regarding bankruptcy, no reportable action. Thank you.
Okay, so the meeting is adjourned. All right, thanks very much for watching, everyone.